Hey, and welcome to the World Tour of Meditation. Our purpose here is to dispel popular myths around meditation so you can actually access deep inner peace, calm, and joy. And today I'm so thrilled to have with us Summer Bacon, who is a trance medium for Dr. Peoples, a trance teacher, and a completely self-taught spiritual teacher.
Yes.
Yes. Summer, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I do trance coaching, and I've written books and things like that. But I'm a trance medium, but it's not something that I set out to do with my life. I was born this way, and I needed to understand why I could see and hear and feel things that other people couldn't see and hear and feel. So it was really tough for me when I was a kid because I wasn't like everybody else in many ways. And sometimes, people looked at me kind of like she's strange or weird because I could see air, which really I discovered later on was I could see energy, which is what I was seeing, but I didn't understand that. So, through the years, through my teen years, and when I saw my grandfather who had passed away, he visited me. I had out-of-body experiences during that time. I didn't do drugs. My dad said, "You are drugs, Summer, so do not do drugs." Because I was pretty much having the experiences that people were having on drugs. I was having them without the drugs. And then, so I just had to teach myself. Eventually, I had to find out what this was about because I was seeing, hearing, and feeling things that I could not explain. And nobody could explain it to me. I really didn't have a mentor in that until I met Dr. Peebles through a trance medium named Thomas Jacobson. So, yeah.
Was in 1994?
That was in 1988. And I think it was even 87 when I first heard him on the radio for the first time. And that's where things started to kind of gel for me. My mom was really cool. I had great parents. I mean, thank God if I had any other parents, I'd probably be locked up, in a mental institution because they were so cool about everything. They knew I was different. But my mom one day told me, "Come on, Sonny, let's go and sit down on the couch and listen to this guy. He's going to be letting the spirit speak through his body." And I was like, "What? That's so scary," And my mom was so cool. She turns the lights way down, gets it, lights a candle, and then she turned the radio on. And this guy was on a very famous psychologist's radio show. This guy named Dr. David Viscott, and Thomas Jacobson was on, and he channeled Dr. Peebles, who came through with a completely different voice and spoke through Thomas's body with a completely different voice. And but the things that he said and the feeling and the vibration of it was so intensely loving that I could not deny the truth of it. Even if they could conclude that Thomas was making this up, I didn't care because it was so loving and so incredible. But clearly there was another presence there. And so that really got me wondering. And I had a session with Dr. Peebles through Thomas, and which changed my life, just changed my life.
How did that change your life?
Well, because I really knew tangibly the truth that there is life after death, that spirit is real. And I started to realize that I wasn't as crazy as I thought I might be. I mean, because I could see and hear and feel things that other people couldn't. And when I mean see and hear, I mean, I saw spirits, heard spirits, felt spirits. I knew things in advance. I was psychic. I mean, to a scary degree for when I was very young. And so when I had this session with Dr. Peebles, it just started making sense of everything because it became more evidential, more tangible to me. And it got me to thinking, I was extremely, I have done some normal things in my life. I worked for Goods and Todman. I worked on game shows as a prize coordinator on Family Feud and Super Password and these game shows and things. I managed a recording studio and stuff. But so I had a really interesting life, but I was very afraid of everything. Because again, I didn't know how to explain all these things that were happening to me, and I had no one to explain it. So I ended up at a point in my life where I was rather suicidal, quite frankly. And because I just couldn't take it. It was sort of it seemed like the more I tried to stop the voices and stop the visuals, the more intense they got. So I decided to talk to God one day because I'd heard God is love. God loves us. And I thought, okay, if that's truth, that's real, then I'm going to ask God to bring it. Whatever this is that's coming at me, I don't know what it is, but I want to know what it is. And I want to find out. And what do you want from me, God? You know, and if that's like, I had at one point very briefly went into the Christian community, was born again Christian for a couple of years. That didn't work out real great for me. My Christian friends said this is probably all Satan tormenting me and things like that. Anyway, that's another story. But I ended up saying to God, you know, bring it, whatever this is. I mean, if this means that you want me to go to hell or whatever it is, I just need to know who I am. What am I to you? What do you want from me? So I laid down on my bed every single night and on my back in the most vulnerable way that I could in the dark. And I lived in this room in my parents' house that had been a recording studio. So there were no windows. And it was like a vault, really. It was very soundproof and everything. And I was terrified of the dark all my life. And mind you, at this point, I was like 27 or 28 years old. And I'm still afraid of the dark. And so I'm laying there on the bed and I say, okay, God, whatever this is, just bring it on. And I did this every night for almost a year or more. And every night I had the most amazing experiences. I would be falling back into my body. I'd be going out of body. I had visitations from angels. I saw spirits in my room. I saw this little girl standing next to the bed. All these different things happened every night. Every night I did the same thing, asking God to bring it, whatever this is, show me who I am, what this is about, why is this happening? And every night I have these extraordinary experiences, and I was scared with some of them just because they were different. But then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. Nothing bad has happened to me. It's all been really interesting stuff. So, And then one night, this is probably one of the last nights I did this, I woke up in my body, but my body is sitting up in bed. I didn't do it. And I'm looking through my eyes, but somebody else is in my body, not me. And I'm really aware of this. And it's like I can feel there's somebody else there and that I'm not in my body, but they are. And I thought, am I in my body? And the weird response that I had to that was to go to the bathroom and look in the mirror. And I saw myself as this kind of wispy being. I looked like me, but I was very ethereal. And I was kind of floating in front of the mirror. And it scared me to death. And I went, oh, expletive, and headed back to my body. And as I came in, I'm merging with this spirit. And I'm telling you, Daksha, this was an incredible experience. This being was so incredibly benevolent, so loving. It's indescribable. If you've felt love in your life for someone or something, and you magnify that by 100,000-fold, it would just be the tip of the iceberg as to what that felt like. And all of the fear went away. And as I came back in my body, I could feel my mouth was moving, but I wasn't doing it. And I heard these words coming out, God bless you. God bless you. And I'm like, what? And then boom, I'm in my body. The spirit is gone. And I'm sitting in bed. I'm going, this is really something. And I hear two voices next to my bed. One is male, one is female. Beautiful, angelic voices, as clear as can be, outside of my head. And one voice says, well, what do you think? And the other voice says, well, it looks like destiny to me. And I'm like, destiny? What? So, I had at that point that experience of Dr. Peebles. So I was aware of channeling, but I wasn't thinking in those terms at that point. I was like, kind of thinking that's what it was, but I didn't want to believe it, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to do this.
You want to go there?
I'm pretty sure that was a past life thing. You see, when I was around 11 months old, I had an experience where my mother was taking a picture of me using one of those old Polaroid cameras, black and white. And I have the picture, which is amazing. And because my mom pulled it out when I told her this story many years later, she said, I have that picture. And she showed it to me. My mom took the picture and I didn't want her to take my picture. And like a little kid would be like, you can't take my picture. That's my picture. You know, I didn't even know what a picture was. And she takes the picture. And at that moment I was mad. And I remember talking to this collective group of beings. How I know that, I just remember they were there. And I said, I'm going to find out what this truth thing is about once and for all. Okay, I'll do it. That was the beginning of something that I carried with me all my life, but never really understood. So I knew at a young age that I would be a spiritual teacher. I did not know that I would be a trance medium, but I suspect I've done, well, I know I did it once in a previous lifetime that I'm aware of. And I think in that lifetime is when it really scared me. So I think I was afraid of doing that again, you know, and I just, you know, I didn't want to be under the scrutiny, I think was a big part of it. You know, it's not a, you know, what do you do for a living, Summer? You know, I'm a trance medium. I said that to a postal worker who said, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a trance medium. And he said, oh, I have a friend who does that in Silicon Valley. And I was like, probably not the same thing. I think he was thinking like transistor, you know, like TRANS, but I'm a trance medium, TRANCE. So I go into trance, which is a form of meditation. And, but it's a form of meditation that is very active, I would say. I know there's a type of meditation which I used to try to do, couldn't do it to save my life, which is to clear your mind, you know, go into the oneness and feel nirvana. And I wanted that so badly. But my mind is on hyperdrive all the time and I can't shut it down. And I couldn't do it. I practiced and practiced. And every time I would meditate, instead of quieting my mind, it would accelerate. And then I started to feel like I was getting bigger than my body. And then I would start to feel like fingers touching my body. And I feel the presence of beings around me. And that scared me. And that was way before I had this experience of the spirit that came into my body that night, which I'm assuming was Dr. Peebles that night. But I was afraid of it. And then later I started to realize when I started to teach myself about trance, that there's the kind of, I think the meditation where you can quiet your mind, if you can do that, I think it's beautiful. I wish I could. I just have never been able to. But in a different way, I kind of quiet my mind by going into it, like letting myself go into everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is a form of you sit in a chair and you feel the chair. You're really with it, you know, and you feel the air in the room. And if a car is honking outside or the phone rings, it's like, oh, isn't that interesting? There's a car honking its horn outside. Oh, isn't that interesting? The phone is ringing. But you don't have those attachments to it where you say, oh, I got to answer the phone, or darn it, why is that car honking its horn when I'm trying to meditate? You know, you go into a place of acceptance of everything and not holding any of it at arm's length. So that now it's pretty much you're going into a place where, you know, everything belongs to God. So you're just kind of standing there at the center of the universe going, okay, what's next? And all of a sudden, that's where you can have contact with spirit and contact with your guides, if in angels, however you experience them. You know, some people call it guides, angels, guides, whatever, you know, however you look at it. But that's where you start to have contact, because what you're doing in that is through loving acceptance and loving allowance for everything that is, you're raising your vibration into a greater state of love and appreciation of it all without judgment. Mm-hmm. When you raise your vibration, you're starting to merge with the other dimensions. You're starting to merge with spirit. Spirit is vibrating at a high resonance, you know, high frequency. And we're here on earth vibrating at another frequency. And we raise our frequency through love. And in that love, we join with spirit. We start to merge. And it's so beautiful. And it's so, I don't know how to explain it, but it's so tangible. That's the thing. I mean, people are looking for tangible evidence of God, evidence of spirit, evidence of angels, evidence of their loved ones on the other side. You know, are they still there? Can they hear me? And do they exist? And this is one way to know tangibly. And it's really so personal that really only you will understand how tangible it is. But you understand it tangibly in that merging together. And you feel that being, and you can just feel them from the inside out. And that's the other beauty of this kind of trance and this type of meditation is what it would be, is that now you're going into life. So you can get to know people, plants, animals, insects, Mother Earth, Father Sky, whatever, from the inside out. What does it feel like to be a stone? I've had people channel a rock. And I just let the rock come to the surface and show you what its existence is. People are astonished because they think they're going to feel heavy, or they're going to feel bored, or something. But they suddenly realize how alive a rock is. The energy of a rock. It's all energetics. Everything has life within it. That's my belief. So it's about really getting to know life from the inside out without judgment. So, I could potentially go into you, and feel what you feel. And that's part of being psychic and an empath and that sort of thing. But also to understand you from the inside out, what a great thing that is. Because now I can hear you. Now I can listen to you. Now I can acknowledge you without trying to change you. I can just let you be you.
Oh, that reminds me of people in relationships.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We spend an inordinate amount of time trying to change each other. And we also spend an inordinate amount of time trying to change ourselves so that we can fit.
I can see how what you're describing can be so powerful and loving and transformative in life. And I can certainly definitely see how it's a kind of meditation. And I want to go into that more. But a couple of things that you said that I just want to go into before we go there. And it has to do with fear, because we're talking about love. And so when we talk about love, sometimes the fear comes up. And even you mentioned it, like when your mom dimmed the lights and lit that candle and said, let's listen, the fear that you had, even though you'd been like seeing things that other people didn't see and hearing things that other people didn't hear, like your entire life. And surely those bits must have been scary at times. And the reason I ask that is because I can think of very specific people in my life who would think, trance, spirits? Gosh, that's scary stuff. So why is it that people are so scared of what is beyond the veil?
Well, I think because we're conditioned, aren't we? We're really conditioned from a very young age to be afraid of it. And to either be afraid of what's beyond the veil or to be reverent of it. So we have either a reverence or a fear. And we're told we are supposed to revere certain spirits and be afraid of others. And so I just think it's really conditioning. And what I learned is that when I was teaching myself, by going to God and saying, look, if your love is real and constant, then I have nothing to fear. If you are real, if God is the beginning, the Alpha and the Omega, everything, what do I have to fear if I go to God? Nothing. That's what because I want what God wants for me. What can I do for you today, God? A lot of our prayers are about what God can do for us. What can I do for you today? How can I serve you the best? If you need me to be down in the trenches ministering to people in hell, I'll do it, And it's like opening yourself up to, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my true purpose? Which is not necessarily, to build a successful car dealership, which is wonderful to do, but it may not be your purpose. The purpose is in that of ministering to people through that service, through that industry or whatever you might be doing with love. So I also look at it like this. If you think about angels, and we want Archangel Michael to help us through our day. Well, if you think about it like this, you and I are lower frequency entities to Archangel Michael. And he's not afraid of us. So,
But that could, so I guess it's the acknowledgement that you are connected to something all powerful. So
yeah,
nothing could possibly really go.
yeah, but I want to see this. I don't see it like that. I don't see it as I'm connected to something that is all powerful, almighty. I don't see it as that,
Mm-hmm.
because that right there is sort of indicative of the fact that I need something almighty to protect me. I don't need protection. I'm with God in my heart. I'm with love in my heart. Love is the healer. Love is the transformational thing. It's the light. It's the light that we carry within. We all have it. We don't all acknowledge it, and we don't all express it. But I mean, I can tell you this: when the light turns on, the cockroaches scatter. When the light goes on, where's the dark? It goes away. You shine your light, and there's nothing to fear. It's like it dissipates all the darkness.
Tell me
So
more about that, Summer. I work at a metaphysical bookstore every now and then, and 90% of the people who walk in, we sell crystals and knickknacks and smudge kits and all these other things. And 90% of the people who walk in want something to protect themselves or to cleanse away negative things. Yeah.
yeah, well, and I God bless everybody who loves crystals and all the things that you use. And I've got my little Himalayan salt lamp right here. I love my Himalayan salt lamp. It just makes me happy. But the thing is, if you're going to be dependent upon a crystal and carrying that around with you to cleanse you, and you suddenly lose that crystal, what are you going to do? You're going to freak out, and you're going to feel like you don't have something to protect you. It doesn't come from the outside in, it comes from the inside out. The greater truth in life is that everything, the crystal itself, is contained within us. There is that thing, I am within you, Christ said, you are within me, and we are as one in God. There is no separation. That's the greater truth. I cannot pick up my pen without it first happening inside of me. It happens here, inside, and then I manifest it external to me. So if I want to think of a crystal that makes me happy, like my Himalayan salt lamp, but I don't have it with me. Oh, I miss my Himalayan salt lamp. It makes me feel so good. So I close my eyes and I feel my Himalayan salt lamp inside of me. And it brings this peace because it's really happening in here. So it's lovely, but these things like lighting a candle and that sort of thing is a lovely thing to do. Holding a crystal is a beautiful focal point. We're human. We need those tangibles, Sometimes I gotta know I got this crystal in my hand and I look at it in order to get myself focused. It's a point of focus that's beautiful, but the power is inside of us. So you take that crystal and what it represents to you energetically, and know that that energy that's in the crystal is within you, and you can go there anytime. It's like the Wizard of Oz, right? There's no place like home, and Kansas has been there all the time, Dorothy. It's inside of you. You can go there anytime. All you need to do is think about Kansas, and there's no place like home, and you go.
I guess it's the same with loved ones as well when they've departed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I channeled my mom, and she passed away in 2012, and I missed her tremendously. We communicated before she died, and I said, we got to have a signal or something from the other side. And so our signal was feathers. So extraordinary things have happened with feathers since she passed away. Extraordinary things with friends and family across the world. And but I channeled her because I was with a bunch of people at my dad's house. My mother was an artist, and we were sitting at this table that she had painted, and not just painted a color, but had painted with art, basically. It was the dining table. And somebody said, oh, I'm going to try channeling your mom. And I was like, whoa, no, if anybody's going to do that, it's going to be me. So I let my mom come in. How do I do that? Love. Where are you, mom? And I just feel her in my body. Like, what do her arms feel like compared to my arms? What does her body, her chest, her face, her mouth, what does she feel like now? And she felt so different really than what I would have expected knowing my mom. There was a little bit lighter, brighter thing to her. She's a very light and bright person in many ways, but very intense on earth. But I could feel that sort of heavenly peacefulness from her. And it just came, it didn't envelop me. It came up and out. I could feel it expanding in me. So I'm letting her be revealed through me. So she turned to my dad, said something I don't remember. I don't remember what happened half the time, because when I'm in trance, I don't remember a lot of things. But I do remember this. She then put her hands on the table, and she's touching the table. She was always very tactile. And she touched the table. She didn't say this to anybody in the room, but I heard her thinking it. And she says, because we were in the house that she lived in, she looks around and she goes, "There's no place like home." And I was like, "Oh." And she said, "But it's not here." And she left. And I came back and I was like, whoa. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just the different perspectives that you can get through this kind of process if you're willing. Yes, you have to overcome the fear. But I want to say something else about that with the fear.
Please.
So I channeled hundreds of dearly departed loved ones before I channeled Dr. Peebles as my primary spirit. When he told me that my training was done, I had no idea I was in training. I channeled for 3 years for free for anybody who wanted it at any time. And it was dearly departed loved ones. So I never knew who was going to come through. And I did full body trance, which meant that if I channeled somebody's mom, like in one case, the mom came through and she's playing with her necklace the whole time. Well, I don't wear jewelry. She's wearing this necklace that she's playing with the whole time. And her daughter knew that was her mom, because that was something that was just part of who her mom was constantly doing this. And so they would come through with physical attributes, and express that using my body. And I was sort of like the puppet, like, whoa, I'd feel really long and tall if somebody long and tall came through and all of that. But it gave me this way of seeing the other perspectives. Well, some of those perspectives that I was exposed to were things that I would never have allowed otherwise. See, the thing is, in order to heal each other, we have to be willing to see each other's pain and acknowledge it. A doctor who's going to remove a tumor does something remarkable. They go in, they cut the person open, they're exposed to a lot of gross stuff that I really would rather not even talk about or let alone look at. And they pull this tumor out. I mean, what a gift, what a loving thing to do. And not everybody's cut out for that. But in order to heal, they had to do this. Dr. Peebles was a doctor on Earth who lived in he was born in 1822, he died in 1922, and he was a Civil War surgeon. And he's out there in the middle of, pardon?
He lived 100 years.
Yeah, he lived 100 years. Mm-hmm. And he was out there on the battlefield, and he was doing surgeries, oftentimes he said without any kind of anesthesia. I mean, imagine what you had to do. He had to become the objective observer of it. If he went into it too emotionally, got too attached to it, said, I can't do this, I don't want to hear the cries of pain from this person or something, he couldn't do the loving thing, which was to help this person who's in agony get over it, at some point by taking the bullet out or whatever it might be. So, the fear can really keep us away from understanding each other and learning and growing together. If we start to acknowledge each other and try to see the world through other people's eyes, I think we could really start to heal, as in humanity in general. And just having loving allowance and acknowledgement of the other perspectives is, I don't care if you think everything I'm saying today, if anybody listening thinks that what I'm saying today is crazy or stupid or madness or whatever, fine. Then you know more about who you are. That's great. So I tell my audiences, I say, if you leave here more skeptical than when you arrived, then you know more about who you are. That's your journey. It's not mine. And I certainly don't have to change myself to get you to like me, because I don't really want to have to work that hard. I'd rather have people like me who just like me because they know who I am. They like it or they don't. Fine. I'm good with that. And so as a result of that, I have a lot of friends, very eclectic group of friends. I had a boyfriend who was an atheist, for 5 years, so I mean, it's just, and I didn't feel a need to change him. He didn't feel a need to change me, but he didn't, he said, what you do is really cool, but he didn't believe that it was a spirit. Okay, that's fine. I didn't take it personally. I didn't care. So yeah, but I mean, as you can tell, I could go on and on and on.
That's remarkable. What's the best thing to talk about right now? There's so many different things that have come up.
She asks a Gemini.
Will you tell me about one or two of the most pivotal moments in your life, in your own journey of self-teaching this, where you learned the most, or you grew the most in those moments?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I could there's so many. There are so many. Well, for example, when I channeled the dearly departed loved ones, some of the things that I learned. In one case, I was channeling for this man who was a friend of mine. And he said, do you think you could channel my friend Tino? And I had no idea who Tino was. He'd never talked to me about Tino before. I said, well, I guess I can, because I can pretty much channel anybody and anything. So I channeled Tino. Well, little did I know that Tino had died on death row. And if I had known that, I was very judgmental, and I would never have allowed this guy to come through me. I thought, I don't want, I would be like, this murderer has no right to speak through me, and I don't want him anywhere near me. So Tino came through, and he was extraordinary. He was such a beautiful man, such a beautiful spirit. And he spoke of all kinds of beautiful things, telling my friend Jay to stop and smell the roses and don't take life so seriously. And he had remorse about what he had done. And I'm in trance, and I'm suddenly realizing this guy has killed somebody. But he was also a very, I guess at one time, a famous dancer. And he was a really beautiful, artistic, beautiful spirit on earth as a human being, who was very genuine and very loving, would give the shirt off his back to people. And one day, in a fit of rage, he ended up stabbing somebody in the back. And so he had remorse about that, but he had learned his lessons. And I could see that, that one thing that he did, as horrible as it is, did not entirely define this guy. That's not all of who he was. It's something he did, but it wasn't everything that he was. And so I changed my perspective about a lot of things. And I've actually done some work with, of all people, Dr. Peoples' great, I think it's the sixth greats in it, nephew, who works in the prison industry, in a prison or whatever they call it. I've actually done some work with him on behalf of the inmates who were curious about life after death and had a lot of questions about that.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so I wouldn't have done that had I not had that more personal, intimate awareness of what makes some of these guys tick, and that's not all that there is to them. We have the potential for anything and everything within all of us. It's just what we choose to bring to the surface. Do we choose to love? Do we choose to hate?
That reminds me of two other conversations I've had on the series, and one is with a woman creating something called Meditation Without Borders, and part of it is bringing it to inmates, to people in all kinds of places.
Yeah.
The other conversation it reminds me of was with an abbot of a Thai Buddhist monastery, who said to me something really interesting, which is a lot of people think that meditation is about like concentration and focus. And what happens when you do those things is you unlock these sort of third eye superpowers, similar to what you described. However, what he said, and again, similar to what you described, is he said when you do that, you can't see your own ego. And so what you really need to do is smile with your heart, open the eye of the heart, because it's
Mhm.
the love that brings you, because otherwise you can get deluded. And I think that's part of the fear question, because I hear I hear a lot of people, particularly from the tradition that I come from the Indian subcontinent, talk
Mhm.
about how you can quite easily, go crazy or get genuinely deluded, whatever that means. I don't really know, but that you can get, you can lose your mooring in life. A few years ago, I was reading this book of Water and Spirit, uh,
Mhm.
and it's about a particular African shamanism, and he's talking about these initiation rites that the men go through uh,
Mhm.
to journey between worlds and to journey between spirits, and how one of them doesn't come back alive from this initiation rite.
Mhm.
Yeah, any thoughts on that?
What particular part of that?
The part about the part about coming from love and staying strong in your own self, so
Oh,
that
okay,
you don't
yeah.
get lost or
Or diluted.
deluded or die.
Right,
Yeah,
right. So I guess this is the thing with what I teach with trance.
yeah,
It's about being intimate with life, seeing the world from somebody else's perspective, from the inside out. I'm not, when I go into trance, I'm not becoming Dr. Peebles. I did not become my mom. I did not become Tino. I was just looking through their eyes,
mm,
and they were showing me who they truly are from the inside out. So I'm not losing a sense of myself in the process of trance. So I can't be deluded. I think a real delusion would be thinking that I am Tino now, or thinking that I am, and that would be a very different thing. But when I'm in trance, I'm very much Summer Bacon, and there's I'm a very real person. I do everything that real people do. I don't have a special diet that I follow to become, to be a spiritual person or anything. I just am who I am. No excuses. I just am Summer Bacon, and I'm very aware of who I am. I have a very strong sense of self as a result of channeling, because everywhere that you go in this process of trance, you bump into yourself. It's not about becoming a channel at all. This is about spiritual growth. This is about personal spiritual growth and developing a long, real, lasting relationship with God and spirit in such a way that you can totally turn to that anytime you want and get help. Even if you can't find your car keys, you learn how to go, okay, instead of running around trying to find your car keys, you say, car keys, where are you? Show me, reveal yourself to me. And suddenly you feel in your body and you go, oh, wow, weird. I feel like I'm under the couch. And then you go under the couch because you think, I didn't put my keys there, but you go under the couch and there they are. You find them. And so you're just basically, the question and the answer are married. And this is a way to just go to it immediately without trying to fix it from the outside. You go on the inside, find out where it is there, find it, go manifest it externally, external to you. But it's a place where you bump into yourself all the time. You are called on everything, on every fear that you might have. You're going to be asked to face it. Um, it just has a way of doing that, and you don't have to face it. But if you do, you can really grow as a person. It's taught me how to be a lot less judgmental of people, a lot more accepting of people, and especially more accepting and loving of myself, because I know who I am, and I'm not afraid of that. So I'm not trying to change myself for people all the time, which feels really good. I've done a lot of that in my life. Believe me, I've done a lot of that. So, yeah.
so trance is a path of meditation, and trance is a path of knowing self. Who is
Yeah.
it for and who isn't it for?
In terms of who it's suited for.
Yeah, if someone's listening to you thinking, maybe I should do that for my meditation, maybe that's my path, like.
Yeah. And again, I would emphasize again, it's not about becoming a trance medium. I did not intend to do this as a profession. I got kind of cornered by it. Um, and so I would say it's anybody who really, if you've gone through everything. A lot of my clients have done a lot with their lives, you know, been very successful, you know, built corporations, have successful healing businesses, but they're missing something. It's like, what is missing in this equation of life? I'm still not happy. I'm still not, you know, I still can't function with my family. I don't have a good relationship, or whatever. You know, there may be something that they just don't know how to fix it. And so they say, what is it within me that is causing this? What is this block that's causing me from really feeling truly, totally engaged with life? Well, a lot of times the one person that we leave out of the equation of life is ourselves. You know, we tend to hide ourselves a lot from people. We tend to have a very private inner world that we're terrified to express externally, because unfortunately a lot of us make the people outside of us our gods, rather than going to the God within ourselves and being comforted with that. So it's for anybody who really is courageous enough and feeling really stuck in their lives. It's a way to get to the core root of what's happening, what the fear is, what's holding them back. Why are they not expressing themselves? Helps you to learn how to speak your truth and let it, as Dr. People says, speak thy truth if thou knowest it, and let it jostle whom it may. And I love that. You know, it's just speaking your truth and not being afraid of who you are, and learning how to do that. So it's like, I can't channel spirit. You know, people say, I'm gonna be a channel for Archangel Michael. Okay, if you can let Archangel Michael speak, can you let me know who you are? Can you tell me your truth? If you can't, I'm not buying it that you're channeling Archangel Michael, because you're going to have to be as pure can be to let Archangel Michael speak truth through you. You're going to have to be a wide open channel without any filters, no sieve. And I mean, a channel can be a channel can be a really clear cell phone connection or not. And, you know, I'm sure we've all had those moments on the cell phone, like, what did you just call me? No, I didn't say it. I didn't call you a name. I was telling you you're great. Oh. So it's, I mean, it's endlessly fascinating to me. Endlessly fascinating. It takes two real, I mean, the two keys to channeling, to going into trance. It takes surrender and vulnerability. And those words are terrifying to people. Surrender to a lot of people means give up. And vulnerability means, I'm going to be attacked.
Will you share that story that you told me over the phone of surrender and...
That was like a sound effect. Tell us the story, Summer.
The story with your former husband.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think which one that was.
It was the story of surrendering. In that
yes. Oh, right. Yeah. There's so many. I'm sorry. There's like
another one that comes up.
Stories. Yes. I was in a few marriages. I have had some extremely. I was in some extremely violent experiences of spousal abuse. And in this particular marriage, this is before I was a trance medium, but I was practicing and studying and trying to understand how to do this work at that time. But he got really mad at me for whatever it was, probably not taking out the trash or something. And so he was on top of me. I was pregnant and about probably 8 or 9 months, almost ready to pop. And he was choking me. And he was pressing down on my esophagus, and I could feel it collapsing in there. And I remember just thinking, this is really weird. You know, like, I didn't think this was going to be the end to my life. You know, I'm a UCLA graduate, for God's sake. You know, that's what's going through my head. You know, and I'm going to die like this. And I'm thinking, how did I get into this? And so I'm talking to God, and I said, okay, God, I said, well, if this is the end of my life, I guess this is what it's supposed to be. And I thought, it's going to make my mom really sad. But if this is what you want for me, and this is how I'm supposed to die, then so be it. And I just felt this peace. And all of a sudden, my husband jumped off of me, and no joke, as if he was hit by a lightning bolt. I mean, and he got off, he goes, oh my God, what did you do? What did you do? And he paced around and he's shaking his hands as if they had been burned. And he, what did you do? What did you do? And I'm laying on the bed thinking, this is amazing. You know, God does have lightning bolts. When he needs to use them, he uses them. And I'm just like, and I'm trying not to laugh at this point because I'm thinking, this is so incredible. And so that was pretty extraordinary. But it was that, talk about surrender. That was total surrender to trusting that this is what needed to be, you know. And I think the reason that I did have marriages that were so abusive and so violent, and these men had they have their own backstory, and I forgive them. I love them. They are not bad people. In so many ways, they have such goodness inside of them that I wish they could just bring to the surface more. But they're terrified. These are people who are afraid of life. They've not been taught that it's okay and safe to be loved and touched and intimate. But anyway, I had all of these experiences, I believe, truly, because I ended up teaching a class called Victory Over Victimhood. And you know, it was really, and it's on my website. It's absolutely free for anybody who wants to listen to it. I gave away copies of it to over 500 people, 3 CD sets back in the day, around the world, you know. And so I've been able to teach about abuse and domestic violence, and you know, because I've been through it. I've been there. I've had it in my life, and I've come through fairly unscathed, you know. So it gives me a connection to a wide body of people who are in that kind of a situation, and I can talk to them about it, and I can talk to them about how to forgive, you know, their enemies, you know, how to love again, and that sort of thing. So
that's powerful, Summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to say anything about your autobiography?
Can I show it? I don't have it. I don't have paperback anymore, but I have this. It's called The Cellars and Ceilings of Summer. And that beautiful graphic, that is a painting that my daughter did, which I just love that. She made it when she was like maybe 16 years old. And I've always had my eye on that for the cover of my book.
How did you get the title? That's quite an extraordinary title.
The Cellars and Ceilings of Summer came from Dr. Peebles through Thomas Jacobson. When I first spoke to him back in 1988 or 89, whenever that was. And I was writing a book about the life of Sir Francis Bacon, because I'm Summer Bacon, and so I was researching that. Sir Francis Bacon, there's a theory that he wrote the works attributed to Shakespeare, and I'm utterly convinced that he did. So I had been talking to Dr. Peebles about that, and this is one of my exposures to spirit. I was writing this book, and but I was twisting history a little bit for this book, because there's theories that Francis Bacon was gay, and that maybe he was even a woman and not a man, and that sort of thing. So I was taking all of these theories and putting them all together in the book. And I was writing it, I was working on it one day at my parents' house, and they had this huge, probably 6 foot wide mobile with crystals hanging off of it, like raw crystals. My dad made this thing. And it was over my head, and I'm working on the book, nobody's home. And I'm thinking, God, I wonder what Sir Francis Bacon would think about me writing this about him. And all of a sudden I felt this really strong presence, and I got really, really afraid. And I look up, this mobile is spinning like a freaking helicopter. It was going, so it was up at the top of the stairs, and I thought maybe there's a vent or something that's making this happen. But there's no way. There was, you know, the air conditioner, no air, there was nothing on. And I was terrified. And this is how I met Dr. Peebles on the phone. I called into this radio station, and I spoke to Dr. Peebles, and I talked to him about Sir Francis Bacon. I said, do I have a connection with Sir Francis Bacon? And he said, yes, that I do. Well, anyway, long story short, later on when I had a private session with Dr. Peebles, we talked about the book again. He said, what would be a book that you would write? He said, The Cellars and Ceilings of Summer. And he said, you know, he told me to go ahead and write the book about Sir Francis Bacon. He said, enjoy the book. But he goes, but what would be a book that you would write? The Cellars and Ceilings of Summer. And at that time, I had no idea what that would mean. but it really was the highs and lows of my life, and and the from fear to ecstasy in trance, the relationships that I've had and what I learned through those experiences, so it's been, it was a book that was 30 years in the works. I mean, most of the stuff was written in real time over the years, and then I compiled it into this book, and I actually edited the book back by 100 pages. So it's just the beginning. And so the books that I have, they're on my website that are free as PDFs, is that book. And then there's this book called Now That I'm Dead. I did not write this book. It was written by my friend, Jerry Helmsy. And this book, this one, really changed my life, because it's about it's about these pirate spirits that Jerry had come into contact with in New Jersey when he discovered that there was treasure hidden under his house in New Jersey. And I didn't know any of this about Jerry, and I had never met him when I was having visitations from the very same spirits. And I didn't know why they were coming to me. Now, talk about scary spirits. These were pirates, stuck pirates, and they were visiting me at night and poking me.
And when you say stuck, you mean not necessarily feeling remorse?
No, not necessarily. They were very piratey still. So they were, had died 300 years ago, and they still hadn't gone into the light. They were still pirates. And so they would wake me up at night, and I'd feel these poking and like pulling on my feet and my toes. And I'd wake up and I'd go, what the heck is that? And then I would hear these male voices. And I was like, what the heck is that? So it wasn't until several weeks later that I met Jerry. And he said to me, I literally, the conversation was, hi, I met him. He shook my hand. He said, I have a book you need to read. And I said, I know, I'm going to publish it. I mean, we just met, and the conversation unfolded. And so this book was very instrumental in changing my life. Now, I mean, you asked me that question earlier. What was the thing that touched my life most of all? It was this experience with the pirates. And I actually ended up channeling the pirates. And there's an audio of that on a different website of mine, but it was an incredible experience to do that for Jerry. And Jerry was a very evangelical, born-again Christian. So I don't know if we're going over time. I know I could keep going and talking and all of that.
A little bit, but you said something that I really want to go back to. Do you get scared today?
No, not so much. I have my moments where I know that sometimes, because I am really sensitive to things, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I feel something's not right. Like somebody's in the room and they're messing with me, and I can feel the spirit that's there. And sometimes I'm just like, so that's when I pray and meditate, and that's again where I go to is into trance, really. And I just try to feel, happiness and joy and love. And I bring myself back to that, and I talk to God and I talk to spirit, and I say, hey guys, could we just, clear this room? These spirits have no permission to be here. And that's really the way that I handle it. When there's a spirit around who's clearly just trying to mess with me, I don't have time for that any more than I have time for that from a human. And I just say to them, look, if you need some help, I can take you to the light. I can help you. But if not, if you're just going to be here to mess with me, you have no permission to be here. And I just try to, just be very calm about it and just tell them to go. But I can't say that sometimes I don't get a little bit trembly inside. I am still human. I'm not perfect in any of this. But the thing is, I turn to this in the tough times of my life. I wouldn't be alive today if I didn't do this work, if I didn't have this connection that I know is very real with God and spirit.
Is there a technique of any kind that you could share briefly, and maybe there isn't, to help someone who's spiraling into fear? Because especially in this time with Corona and this and that, like there's a lot of that. But also when you speak of trance, like I'm thinking of a lot of people I know in my life who are very scared of it and are scared of spirits, or people who are highly empathic, highly intuitive healers who then take on all these symptoms and embody these physical symptoms from their clients and are just bedridden for a while. So when you're
Yeah.
spiraling into places like that, like, is there something to bring you back into the light, into light?
I have two techniques I can share. One is, see the color of my shirt?
Right.
It's like a cobalt blue. This color, if you can just, even if you're very sensitive and very empathic and say going to the grocery store, and some people really have a hard time even being in that kind of a crowd, before you do that, just close your eyes briefly, very simply. No fanfare, there's no wrong way to do it. Just close your eyes and imagine just a blue ribbon of like cobalt blue light swirling around you. That's it, done. And then it acts like it's an energetic thing, because you're acknowledging that within you. You're bringing that to the surface, and it acts like a filter to the garbage. And it can really bring back a lot of peace. The other thing that you can do, and I did this when my husband, the same husband was in my face and yelling at me and finger pointing right in my face and screaming at me. And I was sitting on the couch, and I just detached from him by saying inside of myself, not verbally. I just kept thinking, God, 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 and just kept saying that inside of myself. And I kept looking at him. And again, the same thing that happened when he was on, choking me. I kept saying, God, God, God. And then he's yelling and yelling and yelling. And then all of a sudden he goes, oh, never mind. And he walks away. And I thought, wow, that's powerful stuff. So you're acknowledging God, in that, but you just keep saying it repeatedly. And the thing is, it does take focus. If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling upset, you can get yourself out of that real quickly by just closing your eyes. Think of anything that makes you happy. It could be the flavor of blue cheese, it could be anything. And and you feel it in you. You know what happiness feels like. You go there inside, and you can flip that sad sensation very quickly. And the thing is to stay with that. You know what that vibration feels like. It takes a little practice. It does, because we're real conditioned to be real doomy and gloomy people. A lot of times.
I really have one more question. I hope you don't mind.
I don't mind. I could do this all day. I love sharing. It's so much fun.
Well, I hope all the listeners don't mind, but it's a question. So I hear some people say, when you talk about there's so many wellness, meditation, spiritual teachers today talk about keeping your vibe high and focus on the positive. You think of APIC stuff, like it's always stay in that alignment. And then I hear people say, but when you feel sad or when you feel grief or anger or something traumatic, it's important to feel those emotions, because otherwise they get stuck and lodged in the body. Mm-hmm. So when you use a tool like that, it sounds so crass.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
You say, God, God, God. Or, if I'm feeling sad and I think of the sun, like a cartoon sun is what I think of. Mm-hmm. I think of this cartoon sun and it makes me happy. What is the right thing to do? Am I supposed to feel icky so that I can feel it and let it go?
I think there is something to that. The thing is not holding on to it. That, we are human. It is tough being here. We're very courageous to be on this school called Planet Earth. We're students here. This is a school in the universe, and you have to be very courageous to be here. And we're here to learn about love. So it is a very, very tough place to be. So we are emotional creatures. We have our ups and downs, and I certainly do. What I do when I get angry or upset, or I'm having that in a day, I go right into it, and I tell God in no uncertain terms how mad I am. And I don't hold back. I'm not somebody who walks around and I don't cuss or something like that. I can really let it loose. And I tell God exactly how I'm feeling. And this is, and I demand more attention here in this part of my life. And I want to know what this is about. And I really go boldly to God and tell him how I'm feeling. And I speak it out. I own it. But when I do that, it doesn't take but minutes before I stumble right into the answer. Because again, I'm not trying to fix it from the outside in. I could be really mad at somebody, and I say, I'm so mad at them, and I get angry and da, 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 da. And then I go, as I'm talking about why I'm so angry, then I stumble right into myself. And I realized what I was here to learn about that relationship, what that relationship taught me. Every relationship I've been in has taught me something really important about myself. And I'm grateful to my really super tough teachers that I've had in this life, because it took a 2x4 to get me to understand certain things and to acknowledge it about myself. So I get that. I don't blame anybody for anything at all. I mean, it just is what it is. And my only choice is to grow from it. So it's hard, but I think you do need to acknowledge your feelings and things. It's just that don't dwell on it. God gave us all the gift of love inside of ourselves, has given us everything that we need to pull ourselves out of depression, out of all kinds of things. And I can say that because I've had extremely serious bouts of depression in my life. And it is God that has gotten me through. And it's just really through that faith and knowing tangibly, having it experiential, that I know God is real. God's love is real and constant. The other stuff is the illusion to me. Hate is an illusion. Fear is an illusion. All those things that are separating us from God, those are illusions. Separating us from love are illusions. We don't have to buy into that. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy at all, a lot of times.
Because we're so habituated to the focus on the fear,
Exactly.
focus on the victimhood.
Right, exactly. And through your choices and perceptions of life, you create your reality. Somebody can see a sunset and not see it as beautiful. Oh, look at that. That's gross. It looks disgusting. I don't like those colors. Somebody else sees it and sees this extraordinary sunset. It's just two different ways of looking at it. It's different. It's the way they choose to perceive it. And that's that.
And you're saying if we can shift our perception with for instance, a blue ribbon, or saying God, God, God. Like,
yeah. And also, you can also shift your perception by just trying to see the other perspective. Say, that's true too. If somebody tells you, they I don't know, they love the wintertime and you don't like it, that's just their perception. You say, really, you love the wintertime? That's great. Instead of arguing with, well, how could you like the winter? It's so cold. Rah, 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 rah. You say, well, what do you love about winter? Then they might just tell you this wonderful story about playing in the snow with their grandpa and finding a little bunny, and so because you miss the magic when you start fighting it, trying to change somebody. So you just let life in, and you don't have to believe it. People can tell you something and you don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe what I'm saying, but you could be interested in it. Boy, she sure is weird. Just check out that chick, Summer Bacon. Well, in that case. Thank you.
Is there anything about meditation from a trance perspective that you'd say is a gross misconception that you'd like to clear up that we haven't spoken about yet?
From a trance perspective?
Or from actually either way.
About meditation, that there's a wrong way to do it. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I have so many people who come to me as students and they say, I try to meditate. And it's weird too. People get really like, I'm so sorry, they come back for a class with me and they say, I'm so sorry. I didn't, I forgot to channel this week. And then I tried to meditate, but I just couldn't. And like, they feel this guilt and shame because they haven't meditated. See, the thing is, that's another illusion that's separating you. If you think you have to do it in a particular way at a particular time, there is something to be said for doing it habitually. You're going to get better at it. Just like if you practice piano, you're going to get better at it every time you do it. But the thing is, with meditation, I can meditate right now. I just did. I just said hi to my mom. I mean, it just, you could be washing dishes and you can just be, thank you for this beautiful water. Thank you for these beautiful dishes. And just be grateful. Just being in a place of gratitude to me is a meditation. I'm meditating on gratitude. How lovely, thank you, God. glass of water. And I love this water so much. And please just imbue it with every beautiful thing in the whole wide world that you can. When I drink this, it's going to nourish my body. You know, just putting a little more attention into stuff. I do it all the time. I really do. Every time I drink my coffee in the morning, I thank the coffee and all the people and all the creatures who made it possible. And if you start thinking about that, you're going to find out it's really starts at the very beginning of the universe. We wouldn't be here without it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is that all you'd like to add?
I just want to thank everybody who's listening, and just, love yourself. Try to see the other perspectives, but love yourself enough to let yourself be who you are in the world and see what happens. Listen for the honest echo. You are enough. That's what I would say. You are enough. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
You're a human being, not a human doing. You're very welcome. Thank you, Daksha. I really appreciate it very much.
It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun. You're wonderful. I believe in your mission wholeheartedly.